Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is, well, it's ambitious. We're taking a huge, specialized field, the date palm, and we're turning it into a really focused instructional exploration for you.
That's right. You're basically about to get the comprehensive tutorial on a crop that, and this is no exaggeration, literally forged civilizations.
Exactly. We are doing an incredibly detailed deep dive today into Phoenix dactylifera, the date palm, and our source material is, frankly, exhaustive. We're covering everything from the deep biological mechanisms of the palm itself all the way through to modern genomics.
And critically, we have this step-by-step tutorial detailing 23 really unique preserves. These come from oasis cultures all around the globe.
Yeah, this is definitely intended as the definitive guide. We're choosing depth here, really getting into the mechanisms over just listing simple facts.
Absolutely. You could think of this as the 90-minute guide to date palm civilization, and we have to start at the foundation.
This tree, the date palm, it's arguably the world's most life-sustaining desert fruit. Its importance goes way beyond symbolism. It's structural to survival in those regions.
It really is the emblem of oasis agriculture. It's foundational, completely foundational to human settlement, to survival in these arid zones.
And that utility, that absolute necessity, it naturally translates into this profound symbolic status.
Absolutely. It's revered across Muslim, Christian, and Jewish faiths. It's a crop that really defines permanence, defines abundance in landscapes that seem, well, impossible.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Let's establish its scientific identity. We're talking about Phoenix dactylifera. That's a species of flowering plant, and it belongs to the Ericaceae family. You probably know them as the palm family.
Right. And what's crucial taxonomically, from a classification standpoint, is that this particular species, dactylifera, is the type species for the whole Phoenix genus.
What does type species mean exactly?
It means it's the original benchmark, the standard against which all the other related species in that genus, and there are about 12 to 19 wild date palm species, are measured and compared. It's the reference point.
Got it. The original standard. And its physical structure, well, it really reflects that resilience, that longevity we mentioned.
These are truly majestic plants. They get incredibly tall, often between 60 to 110 feet. That's up to 30 meters.
Wow.
And part of what contributes to their incredible lifespan, they often live over 100 years, is that they grow quite slowly, very deliberately.
And they can grow singly, right?
Yeah.
Just one massive trunk.
Yes. It can either as single towering specimens, or sometimes they form these dense clumps, multiple stems all rising from a single shared root system. It depends on the conditions and maybe the specific variety.
I found the biological details really fascinating, especially about the roots. They have these specialized structures. Nematodes.
Nematodes, yes, that's a great point. For anyone listening, nematodes are basically aerating organs on the roots, little snorkels almost.
Okay, but why would a desert plant need roots that help it breathe? Especially in an oasis, isn't the problem usually lack of water, not lack of air?
That's the counterintuitive part. You naturally think desert, dry. But oases are precisely where the water table is high, close to the surface.
Oh, okay.
So that can sometimes lead to localized waterlogging or anaerobic conditions down in the soil where oxygen is scarce.
Right, the roots could drown.
Exactly. So the nematodes are the palm's vital adaptation for that specific scenario. They allow the roots to actually pull in air from just above that waterlogged layer. It's critical for surviving the fluctuating water levels in a typical oasis. It protects the palm from stress that would just kill other trees.
That makes sense. An oasis isn't just sand, it's this interface with water.
Precisely.
And here's another core botany point. The trunk. Unlike the trees most of us are used to, like oaks or maples, the date palm trunk doesn't produce annual tree rings.
That's right. And that's because palms are classified as monocots, not dicots. It sounds technical, but it's a fundamental difference.
Explain that difference, monocot versus dicot.
Sure. So dicots, like your typical broadleaf trees, have their vascular bundles, the plumbing, basically arranged in a ring. This includes a layer called the cambium, which grows outwards each year, creating those distinct rings.
Okay.
Monocots, though, like grasses and palms, have their vascular bundles scattered throughout the stem. They don't have that organized cambium layer. They grow thicker and taller by increasing the number and thickness of their fibers throughout the trunk. It's called diffuse secondary growth.
And the implication of that, no rings.
The big implication, especially for archaeologists, is that you can't easily tell how old an ancient date palm is just by cutting it down and counting rings. It forces researchers to rely on dating surrounding artifacts or using radiocarbon dating on associated organic material, not the trunk itself.
Fascinating. Okay, what about the leaves, the foliage?
The foliage is massive, contributing to its utility. The leaves are pinnate, meaning feather-like, and they can be huge, 4 to 6 meters long.
13 to 20 feet. That's enormous.
It is, and each one of those massive fronds holds about 150 individual leaflets. The whole crown, the top leafy part, can span 6 to 10 meters wide. That's 20 to 33 feet across.
Impressive shade structure.
Yeah.
Any downsides?
Well, be warned if you ever get close to one. The petiole, which is the stem part of the leaf that attaches to the trunk, is armed with some pretty sharp spines. Definitely something to watch out for. Hashtag 1.2 reproduction and propagation mechanisms.
All right, let's shift gears to reproduction. This is where we really start to see why cultivating dates requires such intensive human management.
Absolutely. The key thing to understand is that the date palm is dioecious. Now, that's a specialized term.
Meaning?
It means it has separate male plants and female plants. They're distinct individuals. Only the female plants actually bear the fruit, the dates we eat. But you absolutely need both sexes present nearby for successful pollination and fruit production. And this isn't just a tendency, it's genetically fixed. Right?
Completely fixed. Researchers have identified a very clear XY sex determination system, actually quite similar to what we see in mammals, including humans. Really? XY in a plant.
Yes, and they've even pinpointed 3 specific genes that are conserved. They're found in all male plants, but they are completely absent in all female plants. It's a remarkable, concrete genetic marker for sex determination in a major global crop.
Okay, so separate male and female plants. That immediately sounds like a problem for farming, doesn't it?
It creates a huge commercial hurdle. Think about it. If a farmer tries to grow dates just from seed,
Yeah.
well, first off, statistically, only about 50% of those seedlings will turn out to be the valuable female fruit-bearing plants. The other half are males.
So half your effort is wasted from the start.
Pretty much. And second, even the dates produced by those female seedlings that do grow, they're often highly variable. They're usually smaller and of poorer quality compared to the fruit from the parent tree the seed came from. It's genetically unpredictable.
So if I'm an ancient farmer, or even a modern one, you're saying I invest years of time, water, precious oasis land, and half of my initial planting is essentially useless for fruit. I'll just have to cut them down later.
Exactly. That sounds incredibly costly and inefficient.
It is. And that inherent inefficiency is precisely why farmers, for millennia, have largely bypassed growing from seed for commercial production.
So what's the solution? How do they guarantee fruit?
They use cuttings, or, more accurately, offshoots. These are vegetative clones taken directly from the base of heavily cropping, high-quality female cultivars. Trees they already know produce great fruit.
Cloning, basically.
Essentially, yes. This guarantees the genetics. You know you're getting a female plant, and you know it has the traits you want. Plus, there's a massive return on investment in terms of time.
How so?
These offshoot plants will start fruiting 2 to 3 years earlier than plants grown from seed, so you get faster guaranteed commercial yield. It's a much more reliable system.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about the pollination itself. This is almost like the iconic image of date cultivation, right? The person climbing the palm. It really is. Naturally, out in the wild, dates are wind-pollinated. The wind carries pollen from male flowers to female flowers, but that requires a roughly equal number of male and female plants scattered around.
Which is inefficient for farming.
Highly inefficient if your goal is maximizing fruit yield. So in traditional oasis horticulture, and certainly in modern commercial orchards, they are almost universally hand-pollinated. Human intervention is key.
And this is based on that insight about the male flowers.
Precisely. The defining economic insight of oasis farming is this. One single male flower produces enough pollen to successfully pollinate up to 100 female plants.
100.
Yes. So farmers can be ruthless. They prune out almost all the non-fruiting male trees, maximizing that precious, limited oasis land for the fruit-producing females. The male flowers themselves become a seasonal commodity.
They sell the flower.
They do. At pollination time, the male flowers are harvested and sold in local markets specifically for farmers to use in hand pollination.
And the method itself, climbing those incredibly tall trees.
It demands incredible skill and, frankly, courage. Manual pollination is typically done by highly skilled laborers who climb these tall palms, often just using ladders.
That sounds dangerous.
It can be, which is why in some places, like Iraq, they developed specialized climbing tools. There's one called a tablia in Arabic.
A tablia, what does it do?
It's a fascinating device. It's essentially a strong belt or harness that wraps around both the tree trunk and the climber's back. It acts as a sort of mobile security harness, providing support and leverage.
Ah, like a linesman uses on a
A
pole.
very similar concept, yes.
Yeah.
This is absolutely essential for safety when you're ascending palms that can be, 80, 90, 100 feet high. It allows the worker the stability they need to carefully place the male spathe, that's the flower stalk, into the female inflorescence to ensure pollination. It's dangerous, delicate work that ensures the harvest, and it preserves centuries of traditional ecological knowledge.
Wow. A lot goes into getting those dates. Hashtag tag 1.3, ancient history and global distribution.
Okay, shifting focus to history. The date palm's place of origin. It's surprisingly controversial.
Controversial. Why? Seems like it would be obvious.
You'd think so, but it's precisely because cultivation is so incredibly ancient. We're talking thousands and thousands of years. Over that time, people moved the plants around so much that pinpointing one single original indigenous spot with absolute certainty is really difficult.
So what are the main theories then?
There are three major competing hypotheses. Probably the most popular suggests a Fertile Crescent region, think ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, that general area.
Okay.
Another prominent theory argues for the Persian Gulf area, slightly further east. And a third suggests that the cultivated date palm might have actually derived from related wild date palm species found in western India.
So Mesopotamia, the Gulf, or India. We just don't know for sure.
We don't. But regardless of where humans first started cultivating it, the fossil record gives us a much deeper perspective. Fossils show that palms related to or identifiable as phoenix have existed for at least 50 million years. This is an ancient life form on our planet.
50 million years. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But the human story with dates, the cultivation part, that starts much later, right?
Much later, yes. The archaeological evidence for actual cultivation is clearest, starting in the Neolithic period. We have evidence from Mehrgarh, which was a significant Neolithic civilization in what's now western Pakistan, dating back to around 7000 BCE.
7000 BCE. That makes it one of the absolute earliest domesticated crops in human history, doesn't it?
Right up there with the earliest cereals, yes. We also have strong evidence of cultivation in eastern Arabia, specifically finds dated between 5530 and 5320 calibrated BC.
And it wasn't just for eating fresh, was it?
No, dates were central to the economy and diet across the ancient world. They were cultivated widely, from Mesopotamia westward all the way to prehistoric Egypt. And in Egypt, we have clear evidence they were using dates to make an early form of date wine. Apparently, it was quite popular during harvest festivals.
Big wine.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the evidence just continues throughout later periods. Assyrian carvings, mentions in religious texts, all signifying the date's continuous, unbroken importance for millennia.
How did it spread so widely from those core areas?
Trade. Its historical spread was intimately linked to trade routes and the movement of people. We have agricultural scholars like Ibn al-Awwam in the 12th century who meticulously documented date palm cultivation practices.
Right.
And traders carried this knowledge along with the actual fruit, and importantly, the offshoots, the saplings, across Southwest Asia, throughout North Africa, and eventually into Spain via the Moors.
And Spain was the key link to the Americas.
Exactly. The Spanish were the critical conduit. They introduced dates to California by 1769, specifically recorded at Mission San Diego de Alcala. They'd actually brought them even earlier to Mexico, back in the 16th century.
So conquest and religious expansion also acted as vectors for agricultural technology.
Very often the case throughout history, yes. Military and religious movements carried essential crops and farming techniques with them.
And today, where are the major growing regions?
Today, the date palm is truly a global crop, though still concentrated in specific climates. It's widely cultivated across northern Africa, the Middle East, the Horn of Africa, also parts of Australia, South Asia,
And the U.S.?
and of course the arid regions of the southwestern United States, particularly Southern California and Arizona. And just across the border in Mexico, in Sonora and Baja California, it found a new home in very similar climates to its origins.
Okay, let's get into the practicalities of actually growing these things commercially. You mentioned it requires patience.
Extreme patience. If you plant an offshoot today, you're looking at a wait of 4 to 8 years before that palm even starts to bear fruit properly.
4 to 8 years just to start.
Just to start. And to achieve what's considered a viable commercial yield, the kind of harvest that justifies that massive initial investment of time and resources, that wait extends to 7 to 10 years.
Wow, that's a serious long-term commitment.
It absolutely is. This is truly a generational crop in many traditional settings. It requires long-term planning, community stability, and commitment. You're not planting for next year, you're planting for the next decade and beyond.
But the payoff eventually is significant.
Oh, yes. Once established, these mature palms can produce a phenomenal harvest. We're talking 70 to 140 kilograms of dates per palm per harvest season.
Which is what in
It
pounds?
translates to roughly 150 to 300 pounds of dates per tree per year. It's incredibly productive once it reaches maturity.
Okay, but harvesting 300 pounds of dates off a 100-foot tree doesn't sound simple.
It's not. The harvest management itself is a very high-touch, labor-intensive process,
Yeah.
and it really dictates the final market quality of the fruit.
Why is it so complex?
Well, first, dates on a single bunch don't all ripen at the same time, so you can't just go and cut the whole bunch at once. It requires several passes, several harvests throughout the season, picking the dates as they reach perfect ripeness.
Okay, multiple pickings. What else?
Two other crucial management techniques are deployed. First, the developing bunches of dates must be thinned out early in the season.
Thinned. You mean removing some of the young dates. Why?
Exactly. By removing some of the fruit, you concentrate the tree's energy, its sugars, and resources into the remaining dates. This makes the dates that are left grow significantly larger and often improves their quality. It's counterintuitive, removing fruit to get a better harvest, but it works.
Right. Fewer, but better dates.
Precisely. Second, as the dates approach ripeness, those precious bunches are often bagged or covered, usually with paper or mesh bags.
Why bag them?
This protects them from a few things. Harsh weather, like rain or extreme sun, dust, and critically, from animals, especially birds, which absolutely love ripe dates. Bagging ensures a cleaner, more marketable product reaches the consumer.
Makes sense. Okay, what about the environmental needs? Soil, climate.
Date palms are quite specific, even though they're tough. They absolutely require well-drained, deep, sandy loam soils. They need depth for their root systems.
Sandy loam.
Hmm.
So not heavy clay.
Definitely not heavy clay. Drainage is key. Interestingly, they are extremely tolerant of alkaline conditions. They actually prefer alkaline soils, thriving in a high pH range of 8 to 11.
That's really alkaline. Most fruit trees would struggle there.
Exactly. This tolerance is a huge advantage, allowing them to grow productively in soils where most other crops would fail. But there's a catch.
What's that?
The soil needs to be relatively free of excessive calcium carbonate, which can sometimes lock up nutrients. And crucially, while it needs good drainage, the soil must also have the ability to hold moisture deep down. It's a delicate balance required for these arid environments, drains well but retains deep water. Hashtag 2.2 date cultivars and genetic breakthroughs.
Now, you mentioned farmers planting specific cultivars. How many different types of dates are there, actually?
That's a surprisingly difficult question to answer precisely. The sheer number of distinct cultivars developed over millennia of cultivation is, well, breathtaking. Estimates range quite widely. Some sources report around 400 different types, while others list about 250 distinct named varieties.
Why the uncertainty?
Because many are highly regional specialties, maybe only grown in one specific oasis or valley, and not widely documented.
Yeah.
However, commercially, on the global market, it boils down to a core group of maybe a few dozen that have broader importance.
Can we categorize them somehow? Like different textures or uses?
Yes, the most common way to categorize them is based on their moisture content and texture when ripe. We generally talk about three main groups.
Okay.
First, you have the soft dates. The most famous example here is the medjool. It's known for its very large size, soft, melt-in-your-mouth texture, and rich caramel-like flavor. It originally comes from Morocco.
Medjool, right. Very popular. What's next?
Then you have the semi-dry or semi-soft group. These are a bit chewier, hold their shape better. This includes some really important commercial varieties like Degla Noor, which originated in Algeria and is hugely popular worldwide. Others in this group include the Zahidi and Halawi from Iraq and the Mazafati from Iran.
Degla Noor. I know that one too. And the third group?
The third group is the dry dates. These have much lower moisture content, making them firmer, chewier, and excellent for long-term storage and for use in baking where you don't want excess moisture. The theory variety is a classic example of a dry date.
Soft, semi-dry, dry. Got it. You mentioned the medjool originated in Morocco. How did it become such a big deal in, say, California?
The medjool migration story. It's a fantastic piece of human botanical collaboration and conservation, actually.
Sure.
It happened back in the 1920s.
What spurred it?
There was a disease, the Bayeux disease, devastating the medjool palms in Morocco. To save the variety, an effort was made to move some healthy stock out. It was a bit of a rescue mission. Only 11 healthy medjool offshoots were successfully transferred to the United States.
Just 11 palms.
Just 11. They were initially planted in Nevada, of all places. And interestingly, members of the local Chemehuevi tribe were involved in tending to these precious palms initially. 9 of those original 11 survived that initial phase. Then, in 1935, those 9 survivors were carefully moved to the newly established U.S. date garden in Indio, California.
And that small group.
Yeah.
That was the start of the whole U.S. industry.
That tiny genetic bottleneck, just 9 palms, became the foundation stock for virtually the entire medjool date industry in the United States. It established the major production areas you see today in places like Yuma, Arizona, and the Bard Valley in California.
That's incredible. Talk about a high-stakes transfer.
It really was, and it's a powerful example of how modern conservation efforts can allow an ancient, valuable variety not just to survive a threat, but to actually flourish globally. That U.S. stock was even later used to reintroduce healthy medjools back into parts of Africa.
Amazing story. This focus on genetics naturally leads us to, well, modern genomics. Has there been much research on the date palm genome?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because of its ancient status, its economic importance, and its unique biology, the date palm has become a significant focus of genetic research.
When did that start?
The first big step was the publication of a draft genome sequence back in 2011. That was for the Kalas variety, which is very important in the Middle East.
A draft genome. So like a first attempt.
Kind of, yeah. It provided a basic map, but it was followed by more complete genome assemblies in 2013 and then a significantly improved one in 2019.
What made the 2019 one better?
It used newer technology, specifically long-read sequencing. This is really important for assembling complex genomes like the date palms. It allowed researchers to more accurately piece together the DNA sequence and crucially for really important commercial traits, things like fruit color, sugar content, even disease resistance. Being able to pinpoint these genes accelerates breeding programs enormously. You can select for desirable traits much more efficiently if you know the underlying genetics.
So it helps farmers develop better dates faster.
Essentially, yes. Even before the full genome, back in 2015, researchers developed the first SNP map for the date palm.
SNP map. What's an SNP?
Okay, so SNP stands for single nucleotide polymorphism. Think of DNA as a long string of letters. A, T, C, G. An SNP is basically a single letter difference at a specific position in that string that varies between individuals or varieties.
Like a one-letter difference in the genetic code.
Exactly. By mapping thousands of these SNPs across many different date palm varieties from different regions, researchers can essentially trace their family tree, their lines of descent, and how they're related.
What did the SNP map reveal about date palm history?
It showed some fascinating connections. For instance, it confirmed that domesticated North African varieties, like the famous medjool and Deglet Noor, share large chunks of their genome not just with palms from the Middle East, as you might expect, but also with wild palms found way over in Crete, that's Phoenix theophrasti, and even wild palms from India, Phoenix sylvestris.
Wow. So it proves there's this ancient, sprawling history of genetic exchange, mixing, and movement across continents, probably following those trade routes we talked about.
Precisely. It paints a much more complex picture of hybridization and gene flow than just simple origin points. Hashtag 2.3. The phenomenon of the Judean date palm.
Now, there's one particular date palm story that sounds almost legendary. The Judean date palm. What's the deal with that?
Ah, yes, the Judean date palm. It's famous, and rightly so, because its seed possesses this absolutely extraordinary trait. It's what's called an orthodox seed, meaning it can survive drying and long-term storage. But the Judean date palm seed takes this to an extreme.
How extreme?
Well, seeds recovered from archaeological sites in the Judean desert, notably Masada, were successfully sprouted after being accidentally stored, essentially just buried in the dry conditions for approximately 2 millennia. 2,000 years.
Wait, they sprouted seeds that were 2,000 years old. Seriously?
Seriously. The first one, famously named Methuselah, sprouted in 2005 from a seed dated to around the time of the Roman siege of Masada. It was, and is, truly miraculous.
Has it happened again since Methuselah?
Yes. Since that initial success, which stunned the botanical world, a total of 7 of these ancient seeds, recovered from different archaeological contexts in the area, have now been successfully sprouted and are growing.
7 ancient trees resurrected.
Essentially, yes. They've even been given names. Methuselah, of course, then Hannah, Adam, Judith, Boaz, Jonah, and Uriel. These aren't just scientific curiosities. They represent the potential revival of ancient biodiversity, varieties adapted to that specific region thousands of years ago.
The implications of this are just staggering.
They really are. Think about it. If these seeds could survive for 2,000 years in less than ideal, basically accidental storage conditions, it means the absolute upper survival time limit for properly stored, genetically robust seeds like these remains completely unknown. It could be far longer.
It challenges our whole concept of biological longevity for seeds.
It does, and it strongly suggests that valuable agricultural knowledge, unique genetic adaptations tailored for specific ancient climates or challenges might still be out there, lying dormant in seed banks, archaeological sites, or forgotten collections, just waiting for us to rediscover and potentially utilize them again. It's a powerful symbol of hope for biodiversity. Hashtag 2.4 global production and pest sports.
Okay, bringing it back to the present day and the global scale, what does date production look like now in terms of numbers?
It's a massive industry. Looking at recent data, say for 2022, the total world production of dates was staggering. It hit about 9.7 million tons.
Nearly 10 million tons. Where is most of that grown? Is it still concentrated?
Very much so. Production is highly centralized in a few key countries. The top 3 producers alone account for almost half of the entire world's supply.
And those are?
Number 1 is Egypt, producing around 1.7 million tons, followed very closely by Saudi Arabia at 1.6 million tons, and then Algeria comes in third with about 1.2 million tons.
Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, together they make up nearly half, 46% of the total global production. That's dominance.
It reflects where the climate and tradition are strongest, absolutely. However, this huge success story is constantly under threat from some really devastating pests and diseases.
What are the main culprits?
The number 1 enemy, the major threat globally, is probably the red palm weevil, Rhynchophorus ferruginous.
Red palm weevil, what does it do?
It's insidious. The adult weevil lays eggs at the base of leaves or in wounds on the trunk. The larvae then hatch and bore deep into the crown and trunk of the palm, feeding on the soft tissues inside.
So it eats the palm from the inside out.
Exactly. An infestation is often not obvious from the outside until it's too late, and the internal damage can be so severe that it kills the entire palm, even large, mature ones. It's a huge economic threat to commercial production, particularly in the Middle East, but it's also devastating for iconic historical landscape specimens across the Mediterranean and beyond. It's incredibly difficult to control once established.
Sounds nasty. Are there other major pests?
Yes, another serious issue, particularly in certain regions, is the dubus bug. Almatissus libicus.
Dubus bug. What's its mode of attack?
It's a sap-sucking insect. Large populations of these bugs feed on the palm fronds, draining the plant's energy, but the secondary effect is often worse.
Which is?
As they feed, they excrete large amounts of a sticky, sugary substance called honeydew. This honeydew coats the leaves and fruit, and it quickly fosters the growth of a black, powdery fungus known as sooty mold.
Sooty mold. That sounds unpleasant.
It is. It's not only unsightly, covering the leaves and making the fruit sticky and unmarketable, but the mold layer itself actually interferes with the palm's ability to photosynthesize. It blocks sunlight from reaching the leaf surface. So a heavy infestation severely impacts the overall health of the tree and significantly reduces fruit yield and quality. Another major headache for growers.
All right, let's zoom in on the fruit itself, the date. What are its basic physical characteristics?
Well, the fruit itself is a perfect example of nature's packaging for survival, especially in the desert. It's typically oval cylindrical in shape. Okay. Size varies quite a bit depending on the cultivar, but generally they're about 3 to 7 centimeters long, maybe 2 to 3 centimeters in diameter.
And the color?
The ripe color also varies tremendously by variety. They can range from bright red to bright yellow, deep brown, almost black. It really depends. Inside, of course, there's that single hard seed or stone, usually about 2 to 2.5 centimeters long.
And what makes it the sort of definitive desert survival food is its energy content, right?
Absolutely. Its energy density is unparalleled, especially when dried. Dried dates are an incredible source of quick, readily available energy. By mass, when dried, they contain somewhere between 63 and 64% pure sugar.
Wow, nearly two-thirds sugar.
Yes. Let's look a bit closer at the nutritional profile. If we take 100 grams of dried Deglet Noor dates as an example, that's about 3.5 ounces.
Okay.
You're getting around 282 kilocalories, a significant energy punch. Of that, 75 grams are carbohydrates, and as we said, 63 grams of that is pure sugars.
Is it just one type of sugar?
No, and that's actually quite important. The sugar profile is remarkably balanced. It's almost evenly split between sucrose, table sugar, glucose, and fructose.
Why does that matter?
Because these different types of simple sugars are absorbed by the body at slightly different rates. Having a mix like this can provide a more sustained energy release compared to something that's purely sucrose, for example. You get the quick hit, but also some endurance.
Interesting. What else is in that 100 grams?
You also get a very decent amount of dietary fiber, about 8 grams, plus around 2.4 grams of protein and very little fat, only about 0.4 grams.
And micronutrients, vitamins, minerals.
This is where dates really shine, especially for survival in hot climates. They are an extremely rich source of potassium. That 100-gram serving delivers about 656 milligrams of potassium.
How much is that in terms of daily needs?
That's around 22% of the recommended daily value. Potassium is absolutely crucial for maintaining proper fluid balance, nerve function, and muscle contractions. It's vital for managing electrolyte balance and mitigating the risks of dehydration and heat stroke in arid environments.
A natural electrolyte source, then?
Very much so. You also get moderate amounts of several B vitamins like pantothenic acid, B5, and vitamin B6, along with important minerals like magnesium and manganese. So it's not just empty calories, it's energy packed with essential nutrients.
Now, with that much sugar, you'd expect it to spike your blood sugar like crazy, right? What about the glycemic index?
That's the surprising part. Despite the incredibly high sugar content, the glycemic index, or GI, of dates is generally considered low to moderate.
Really? Low GI?
Yes, studies show values ranging from about 38 up to 71, depending on the variety and ripeness, but the average comes out around 53.
And low GI is good, meaning slower sugar release.
Exactly. A GI below 55 is generally considered low. This indicates that, thanks largely to that significant fiber content we mentioned, the sugar from dates is released into the bloodstream relatively slowly. This helps prevent those sharp spikes and subsequent crashes in blood sugar levels that you get from highly refined sugary foods. It provides more stable, lasting energy, tag 3.2 versatile culinary uses.
Okay, so nutritionally dense. How have people actually used dates in cooking over the millennia? It must be incredibly versatile.
Oh, incredibly so. The date's culinary history is really one of constant transformation and adaptation. Traditionally, of course, they're eaten fresh, soft, or dried, straight out of hand. But perhaps the most famous traditional preparation is pitting them and then stuffing them. The fillings are endless almonds, walnuts, pistachios, candied orange peel, cream cheese, goat cheese, tahini paste, even marzipan. Really elevates the simple fruit.
Stuffed dates, classic. What about when they're processed further?
When processed, the date becomes a fundamental building block in countless dishes across many cultures. They're chopped and added to savory dishes, like Moroccan tagines, where their sweetness balances spices. They're essential in desserts like British puddings or traditional Arab cut cookies, and of course, the classic American date nut bread.
And they make products from dates too, right? Not just using the whole fruit.
Absolutely. The fruit is broken down into practically every conceivable form. You can buy date cubes, date paste, often called ajwa in some regions, which is used as a filling or base. There's date spread, similar to a fruit butter.
And date syrup, I've seen that.
Yes, date syrup or date honey is hugely important. It's known as dibs in many Arab countries, or rub in Libya. It's a concentrated sweetener used like molasses or honey. There's also date powder, sometimes marketed as date sugar, used as a sugar substitute.
Vinegar, alcohol.
Yes, traditional date vinegar has been made for centuries in the Middle East, and while less common due to religious restrictions in some areas, dates can certainly be fermented to produce alcohol.
The culinary reach seems global.
It really is. Modern innovations include things like chocolate-covered dates, which are hugely popular as gifts, and even sparkling date juice is sometimes used as a non-alcoholic champagne substitute for celebrations in some Islamic countries. That really underscores its place as a special, revered food.
You mentioned British puddings.
Yeah.
How did dates become so integral there?
It's a direct reflection of Britain's maritime trading history. Ships brought back preserved goods from the Middle East and Mediterranean, including dried dates, which stored well on long voyages. They became incorporated into British baking, hence staples like sticky toffee pudding, Christmas pudding, and the ubiquitous date and walnut loaf. They're even a surprising ingredient in HP sauce.
HP sauce? No way!
Yes, check the ingredients. Dates provide sweetness and body.
Wow. Any other interesting regional uses?
Loads. In southeast Spain, particularly around Elche, which has this amazing UNESCO-protected palm grove, there's a specific tapas dish, a pitted date stuffed with a single fried almond, then wrapped in bacon and shallow fried until crisp. Salty, sweet, smoky, fantastic.
Okay, that sounds incredible.
In Palestine, date syrup, called Ceylon, is used not just in sweets but also as a glaze for chicken. It's also a key ingredient in jalab, a popular Middle Eastern fruit syrup drink often served in summer.
And you mentioned a non-food use in Pakistan.
Yes, a fascinating practical application. In parts of Pakistan, a very thick, viscous date syrup is traditionally used to coat the inside of leather bags or pipes, particularly those used for carrying water.
Why?
Because the extremely high concentration of sugars makes the syrup hygroscopic and creates a pliable, waterproof sealant when it dries slightly. It prevents the leather from leaking. It showcases using the date's physical properties, not just its taste.
Amazing ingenuity. What of that fork you mentioned earlier, the daddle gaffle?
Ah, yes, a little piece of dining history. Because ripe, soft dates can be quite sticky, specialized small serving forks were developed, particularly in Scandinavia. They typically had just two short tines and were called daddle gaffle.
A dedicated date fork.
Exactly. In more recent times, these were sometimes replaced by inexpensive, mass-produced, pale-colored plastic forks, often knobbled to vaguely resemble a date branch. It was a common sight alongside a box of dates, though thankfully that practice seems to be declining now with the move away from single-use plastics. Still, it shows how culturally significant even the act of eating dates was. Hashtag 3.3 non-food uses, full utilization of the palm.
It's clear the fruit is incredibly versatile. But you hinted earlier that the date palm philosophy is zero waste. What about the other parts of the palm, like the stone, the pit?
Absolutely. Every single part of the palm has historically found a use. Let's start with the seeds or pits themselves. What do you do with them after you've eaten the date?
Throw them away, compost them.
You could, but traditionally they were far too valuable. After soaking to soften them, they are often ground up and used as a component in animal feed. It adds bulk and some nutrients.
Okay, animal feed. Anything else?
Surprisingly, yes. You can extract oil from the date pits. And this oil is chemically interesting. It contains high levels of specific fatty acids, notably lauric acid, around 36%, and oleic acid, around 41%.
What are those used for?
Those fatty acid profiles make the oil potentially very suitable for use in cosmetics and dermatological products. Think soaps, lotions, skin creams. It has emollient properties.
Oh, cosmetics from date pits.
They can also be processed chemically. It's a source material for producing oxalic acid. And as mentioned before, in times of scarcity, or even just for a unique flavor, the pits were, and sometimes still are, roasted, ground, and used like coffee beans, or as an additive to stretch coffee supplies.
The coffee substitute. And you mentioned a health aspect.
Yes, there's some preliminary research. Studies using aqueous extracts of ground date pits, when tested in mice, have shown some potential anti-genotoxic effects, meaning the extracts seem to help reduce DNA damage caused by certain known carcinogens in those animal models. It's early days, but it suggests potential health benefits beyond basic nutrition, possibly linked to antioxidant compounds in the seed.
Fascinating. Okay, so that's the pit. What about the rest of the tree after the fruit is gone, like the empty fruit clusters?
Those stripped fruit clusters, the stalks the dates hung from, they make excellent sturdy brooms, simple, effective, and uses waste material. And more recently, the dried floral stalks, even before fruiting, are being recognized for their interesting shapes and textures. They have ornamental value in floral arrangements.
Rooms and decorations.
Oh.
What about the sap? You mentioned date wine and syrup, but also a danger.
Right, the sap. Sweet sap can be tapped not just from the main P. dactylifera, but also from related wild palms like P. sylvestris and P. reclinata. This sap can be boiled down to make sugar or palm syrup. Jaggery.
But the controversy.
The major health concern arises from the consumption of raw, unboiled date palm sap. In certain regions, particularly South and Southeast Asia, this practice has been identified as a primary way the deadly Nipah virus spreads from fruit bats, which lick the sap, to humans.
Nipah virus. That's serious.
Extremely serious, often fatal. This is a critical public health issue. However, and this is crucial, the Nipah virus is inactivated by heat. Boiling the sap down to make molasses or sugar, which is the traditional way to preserve it anyway, completely eliminates the risk. So the danger is specifically linked to drinking the fresh, raw sap.
Good to know. Boiling is key. What about the leaves, the fronds?
The leaves are arguably one of the most versatile parts. In North Africa, whole palm leaves are traditionally used as the primary material for constructing huts and simple shelters. They provide excellent insulation and shade.
Woven together.
Yes, woven or layered. Mature leaves are also processed to make durable mats for floors or sleeping, screens for privacy, sturdy baskets for carrying goods, and handheld fans for cooling.
And industrial uses.
Processed leaves, like chopped fronds mixed with a binder, can even be used to create insulating board for more permanent structures. The dried leaf petioles, the thick central stems of the fronds, are a good source of cellulose pulp. They're used for making things like walking sticks, heavier-duty brooms, fishing net floats, and they're also a valuable source of fuel for cooking fires.
It just keeps going.
Yeah.
What about the base of the leaf?
The leaf sheaths, the fibrous part where the leaf attaches to the trunk, are also highly prized. They have pleasant scent when fresh, and the strong fibers extracted from them are used for making rope, weaving coarse cloth like burlap, and even crafting large, shady hats.
Incredible. Is there anything left?
We're almost there. We often forget that parts beyond the mature date fruit itself are edible, especially in traditional subsistence cultures.
Like a what?
Young, tender date leaves can actually be cooked and eaten as a vegetable, similar to palm hearts from other species.
Palm hearts. But isn't that...
Yes, the terminal bud, the growing tip deep inside the crown, often called the heart of the palm, is also edible and considered a delicacy. However, removing the heart kills the entire palm because that's its single growing point. So it's only harvested as a very high-value final resource, perhaps from a palm that's already old or unproductive.
A one-time harvest.
Exactly. Also, finely ground date seeds, as we mentioned, were sometimes mixed with flour to extend grain supplies during times of famine or scarcity. And even the female flowers are edible, apparently. You can get 300, 400 grams of edible material from them. The flower buds are sometimes used in salads or ground with dried fish to make a condiment in some cultures. Truly, nothing was wasted.
We've seen the palm's incredible biological resilience, its economic importance, its sheer utility. It's no wonder it became so deeply embedded in culture and religion.
Precisely. That absolute utility cemented its place in daily life, but it's the powerful symbolism derived from that utility, its resilience, its provision in harsh lands, its longevity that solidified its legacy across major faith traditions and cultures. Hashtag TAC 4.1 Judeo-Christian significance.
Let's start with Judeo-Christian traditions. How significant is the date palm there?
Immensely significant. It holds considerable spiritual weight. Just look at the Bible. The date palm, or references to it, appear more than 50 times.
50 times.
Yes. In ancient Israel, it was elevated to a very special status as one of the 7 species, the Shivat Haminim.
The 7 species.
These were the 7 agricultural products listed in the Torah as being special to the land of Israel. Wheat, barley, grapes, vines, figs, pomegranates, olive oil, and dates, honey. Being one of the 7 marked the date palm as a fundamental blessing of the land.
And it became a symbol, too.
A very powerful symbol, yes. Historically, the date palm became synonymous with Judea itself and the Jewish people. You see it prominently featured on ancient coinage, especially coins minted during periods of revolt against Roman rule, like the Bar Kokhba revolt. It was a symbol of national identity and resilience.
You mentioned honey in the 7 species. Is that bee honey?
That's a fascinating point of scholarly debate. The Hebrew word is devash. While it can mean bee honey, many scholars argue that in the context of the Promised Land description in Exodus, a land flowing with milk and honey, the honey, likely refers to thick, sweet date syrup, or dibs.
Why date syrup?
Because date palms were incredibly abundant and productive in the region, especially around Jericho, while beekeeping was less common and wild bee honey perhaps more sporadic. Date syrup would have been a much more reliable, plentiful source of honey-like sweetness flowing from the land.
Makes sense. What about the symbolism in Scripture itself?
The imagery is rich. Psalm 92 famously states that the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree, directly linking the tree's uprightness, longevity, and fruitfulness to spiritual rectitude and prosperity.
Right.
Its graceful form was also admired. The Song of Songs uses the palm tree's stature as imagery for physical beauty. And architecturally, carved palm motifs were used extensively as decoration in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, and they feature prominently in the prophet Ezekiel's vision of the restored future temple. It was a sacred image.
And it's used in actual rituals, too.
Yes, very importantly. Within Judaism, the date palm leaf, known specifically as the lulav, is one of the four species, arba minim, that are ritually waved during the festival of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles.
The lulav, that's the central one, right?
It's the central element, held together with branches of myrtle and willow alongside the etrog, a citron fruit. Waving the lulav bundle is a core commandment of the holiday. Additionally, palm leaves, known as shak in Hebrew, are the traditional and religiously mandated natural roofing material for the sukkah itself, the temporary booth Jews dwell in during Sukkot. They provide shade while allowing a view of the stars, symbolizing reliance on divine protection.
So central to Sukkot. What about in Christianity?
In Christianity, the date palm leaves have a very prominent place in the story of Holy Week. They are ritually used for Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday, of course.
This commemorates Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem when the Gospels describe crowds greeting him by spreading cloaks and palm branches on the road before him, hailing him as king. So palm fronds became a symbol of victory, welcome, and martyrdom in Christian tradition.
Did this symbolism extend beyond the Levant, say, into the Roman world?
It did. Even in ancient Rome, palm fronds, generally understood to be those of Phoenix dactylifera, even if sourced from North Africa or the East, were used as symbols of victory. They were carried in triumphal processions celebrating military successes.
Right, the symbol of victory.
And even though the climate in most of Italy wasn't ideal for the palm to fruit reliably, it was still a popular status symbol in Roman gardens. It appears frequently as an ornamental plant in the peristyle gardens of wealthy Roman villas, as we can see beautifully preserved in frescoes from places like Pompeii. It represented exoticism and prestige. Hashtag 4.2 Islamic and Mandaean significance.
Okay, let's turn to Islam. How is the date palm viewed there?
The date palm, nakhl in Arabic, and its fruit, tamar, hold a very special place in Islam as well. It's mentioned numerous times in the Quran, around 20 times, in fact, often as a sign of Allah's bounty and creation.
Are there any specific stories or mentions that stand out?
Perhaps the most poignant and well-known reference is in Surah Maryam. The Quran recounts that when Maryam, the Virgin Mary, was suffering the pains of childbirth with Isa, Jesus, Allah instructed her, through a voice from beneath a palm tree she was leaning against, to shake the trunk so that fresh, ripe dates would fall for her to eat.
Dates to ease childbirth.
Yes, the verses explicitly mention eating the fresh dates to find strength and solace during labor. This story has deeply cemented the date's association with sustenance, strength, relief, and divine provision, particularly for women and during times of hardship.
And this connects to modern traditions.
Directly. This Quranic account is seen as one of the key reasons behind the deeply ingrained tradition of breaking the fast during Ramadan. Universally, dates, often paired with water, yogurt, or milk, are the very first foods consumed for iftar, the evening meal that breaks the daily fast. They provide quick energy and hydration after a long day without food or drink, echoing that divine provision to Maryam.
A very direct link between scripture and practice.
Absolutely. Beyond the Quran, dates are frequently mentioned in the Hadith, sayings, and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, often highlighting their nutritional benefits and recommending their consumption. The Prophet himself is said to have favored dates.
Okay, and what about Mandaism? That's a less familiar tradition for many.
Yes, Mandaism is a much smaller, ancient Gnostic religion originating in the Mesopotamian region. And for them, the date palm, called sindirka in the Mandaic language, holds profound cosmological significance.
How so?
It symbolizes the cosmic world tree, the tree of life, in their cosmology. It's often mentioned in their sacred texts alongside the cosmic wellspring, or Aina.
The palm and the wellspring.
Yes, they often appear together as paired heavenly symbols. The palm tree, sindirka, is typically seen as representing the masculine principle, while the wellspring, Aina, represents the feminine principle. Together they symbolize fertility, creation, and the connection between the earthly and heavenly realms in the Mandaean worldview. It underscores, again, how central this tree was to the foundational myths and beliefs of the peoples who lived alongside it.
Okay, we've journeyed through the biology, the deep history, the global cultivation, the incredible uses, and the profound cultural and religious symbolism of the date palm.
It's been quite a journey already.
It has. Now let's bring all of that together. Let's transition that symbolism, that biological efficiency, that history of trade and survival directly into the kitchen. We're going to walk through the instructional tutorial section of our source material, these 23 unique desert oasis preserves.
Right. This collection is really remarkable because each recipe isn't just a recipe, it's a kind of edible map. It demonstrates how different oasis cultures across vast geographical regions ingeniously utilize the date's natural properties, especially that high sugar content and low moisture, to create food that wasn't just delicious, but crucially, was exceptionally shelf-stable. Food that could last.
And for this tutorial part, we need to be detailed. We're going to break down the key ingredients, the specific method highlights, the cultural context or meaning behind each preserve, and importantly, any unique nutritional facts or serving suggestions given in the material.
Exactly. We'll group them by their main geographical or cultural axis, as laid out in the source guide, to make it easier to follow the connections. We'll prioritize the why behind each step, the mechanism that makes it work. Hashtag 5.1, the North African and Levantine axis.
Okay, let's dive into the first group, the North African and Levantine axis. We start with preserve number 1, the date-preserved lemon acar. The context is a Saharan oasis, a Berber trading post. The recipe calls for medjool dates and, wow, 6 preserved lemons. Why so many?
That intense salinity and acidity you get from using 6 whole preserved lemons is the key preservation mechanism here. Think of it as ancient refrigeration technology, absolutely essential for making something last in the extreme heat of the Sahara. The salt draws out moisture, the acid lowers the pH, both inhibit microbial growth.
And the method says to quarter the dates.
Mhm.
Why is that specific instruction important?
Medjool dates have very thick, dense flesh. Just mixing them whole wouldn't allow the brine and acidity from the lemons to penetrate effectively. Quartering the dates increases the surface area dramatically. That's the mechanism allowing the flesh to properly absorb that salty, acidic liquid, ensuring the entire preserve is stabilized and shelf-stable.
Okay, makes sense. It also uses argan oil and spices like cumin, coriander, and ras el hanout.
Right, the argan oil provides richness and its own nutty flavor profile, typical of Morocco. The spices, especially the complex blend of ras el hanout, head of the shop blend, add not just layers of flavor, but also contain antioxidant compounds, which might offer some additional preservative effect. Nutritionally, the notes point out it's intentionally high in sodium, 680 milligrams per serving. That's 30% of the daily value.
High sodium. That sounds bad.
Not necessarily in this context. Remember, this is food from a hot, arid environment where people lose a lot of salt through sweat. This achar would typically be served as a condiment, maybe with a rich lamb tagine or aged goat cheese. That high sodium content helps replenish lost electrolytes. It's functional nutrition.
Functional nutrition.
I got it.
Okay, preserve number 4 is really intriguing. Date camel milk butter confit. The context is the Tuareg Trail, the Blue Men nomads. It uses medjool dates, but also camel milk butter, thyme, garlic, and dried limes. Let's start with the butter. The method specifies heating it to precisely 140 degrees after 60 degrees C. Why that exact temperature?
That specific, relatively low temperature is crucial because camel milk butter behaves differently from cow's milk butter. Camel milk fat has a unique crystalline structure and a different composition of fatty acids. Heating it too high or too quickly can cause it to separate or alter its texture undesirably. Heating it gently to exactly 140 degrees AFRA melts it perfectly for the confit process without damaging that unique structure.
And confit means cooking and preserving in fat, right?
Exactly. The method involves slowly cooking the whole pitted medjool dates along with fresh thyme and smashed garlic cloves submerged in that gently heated camel butter. Historically, for nomadic people like the Tuareg, this confit method was a way to preserve both highly valuable fat energy and the dates themselves for long journeys. The fat acts as a sealant, protecting the dates.
And the dried limes. They're listed as crushed.
The inclusion of crushed dried limes, like Omani limes or black limes, is brilliant functional seasoning. They provide a sharp, citrusy counterpoint to the richness of the butter and the sweetness of the dates. But more importantly, on long desert crossings where fresh produce was unavailable, these dried limes were a vital source of vitamin C, helping to prevent scurvy among the travelers. Flavor and health.
Wow. What about the nutrition here? Must be rich.
Extremely rich. The notes highlight it's very high in saturated fat, 15 grams per serving, hitting 75% of the daily value. It also contains unique fatty acids specific to camel milk. This isn't everyday food. It's high-energy survival fuel designed for the intense caloric demands of desert travel. Serving suggestion is with couscous or just spread thickly on flatbread.
Survival fuel.
Yeah.
Okay, moving east to Tunisia. Preserve number 9 is date orange blossom leather connected to the Tazur date gardens. It uses date puree, orange blossom water, and honey. The method talks about honoring Tazur architecture.
The connection to architecture is metaphorical but also literal in the process. First, the reduction itself is key. You cook down the date puree with honey until it becomes incredibly thick and dense, the notes say, as thick as mud bricks, directly referencing the traditional building material of the Tozeur Oasis architecture.
The consistency mirrors the bricks.
Exactly. Then, when spreading this thick paste out to dry, the instruction is to spread it in deliberate geometric patterns before dehydrating it at 135 degrees air or 57 degrees C for a long 24-28 hours. These patterns directly honor the intricate brickwork designs famous in Tezeur's traditional buildings.
So the food itself becomes a piece of edible architecture.
In a way, yes. The orange blossom water is essential, providing that signature delicate floral aroma so characteristic of Tunisian sweets. Nutritionally, this date leather is essentially concentrated fruit, very high in natural sugars and dietary fiber. It's designed for portability, cut into those architectural patterns, or just rolled into lightweight scrolls, perfect for travelers or as a preserved sweet. Only 105 calories per serving noted.
Very clever. Let's go to Algeria. Preserve number 14. Date harissa jam from the Mzab Valley. This uses Deglet Noor dates, harissa paste, date syrup, tomato paste, and caraway. Tomato paste in a date jam. Why?
That's the surprising ingredient that adds real depth. The method involves cooking the Deglet Noor dates down with a good amount of fiery harissa paste, the North African chili paste, and caraway seeds until the jam achieves this deep, rich red color. The notes compare it to a Saharan sunset. The heat from the harissa builds slowly.
Okay, but the tomato paste.
The tomato paste isn't there for tomato flavor, really. It's added for its concentrated umami compounds and its natural acidity. It provides a savory depth and a slight tang that balances the sweetness of the dates and the heat of the harissa. It prevents the jam from being just one-dimensionally sweet and spicy. It makes it a more complex, versatile condiment.
Umami and balance. Got it, nutritionally.
The notes mention it contains moderate levels of capsaicin, the compound that makes chilies hot, from the harissa, and also beta-carotene, an antioxidant, primarily from the peppers in the harissa and the tomato paste. Serving suggestion is on semolita bread or paired with aged cheeses, where that sweet, spicy, savory profile really shines, 175 calories.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Back to Morocco for number 17. Date cinnamon mostarda from the Tafilalt Oasis in the south. Ingredients are medjool dates, Dijon mustard, date vinegar, fresh ground cinnamon, and whole mustard seeds. A mostarda is like a fruit and mustard preserve, right?
Exactly. It's an Italian concept originally, but this version is distinctly Moroccan, reflecting the Tafilalt region's history as a major trade hub. The method here emphasizes a couple of things. First, using a large dice of medjool dates.
Why large dice?
So the date pieces maintain their distinct texture and identity within the preserve. You don't want them to completely break down into mush. You want bites of sweet date contrasting with the sharp liquid. Second, the recipe calls for intensely toasting the fresh ground cinnamon sticks and whole mustard seeds.
Intense toasting.
Yes, bringing out their maximum aromatic potential. The notes say this intense spice aroma acts as a guide to the oasis, metaphorically signaling the richness and complexity found at the convergence of multiple trade routes, carrying goods like French mustard, local dates and vinegar, and spices from the east. Its complex heat and flavor.
Trade routes in a jar. Nutrition notes.
Very high sodium again, 1,080 milligrams, 47% DV. Like the HR, this is likely functional for the climate and diet. It also highlights the active compounds. Cinnamaldehyde from the cinnamon and allyl isothiocyanate from the mustard seeds, both known for pungent flavors and potential biological activities. Serve with roasted lamb or strong cheeses, 185 calories.
Okay, now shifting east slightly to the Levant. Preserve number 6 is date sesame tahini curd. Context is the Dead Sea Oasis in the Jordan Valley. Uses date syrup, tahini paste, egg yolks, and Dead Sea salt. How do you make a curd with tahini?
It's a delicate process, similar to making a lemon curd, but using tahini instead of butter for the fat and richness. The key mechanism is careful emulsification. You start by whisking the tahini paste until it's completely smooth and homogeneous. Then, you temper the egg yolks and whisk them in one at a time, very gently, over low heat.
Low heat is critical.
Absolutely. Too high and you'll scramble the eggs. You cook it gently, constantly whisking, until the mixture thickens to a rich, custard-like curd consistency. The date syrup provides the sweetness, and the recipe specifically calls for Dead Sea salt.
Why Dead Sea salt? Just local flavor?
Partly local flavor, but Dead Sea salt is known for its unique mineral composition, different from regular sea salt. It adds a distinct mineral complexity, a subtle savory note that balances the richness of the tahini and sweetness of the dates.
And nutritionally, this one stands out.
Yes, thanks to the tahini sesame paste, this curd is a nutritional powerhouse for specific minerals. The notes highlight it's high in calcium, 128 milligrams, about 13% DV, and exceptionally high in copper, providing 33% DV. These are crucial minerals that might have been harder to obtain in traditional desert diets, so this preserve is functional beyond just taste. Suggested use is filling delicate pastries or serving with fresh figs, 205 calories.
Calcium and copper from sesame. Interesting. Next, number 11. Date chickpea paste, linked to a Fertile Crescent and Mesopotamian innovation. Ingredients.
Yeah.
Medjool dates, cooked chickpeas, tahini, roasted garlic, pomegranate molasses, cumin. Sounds a bit like hummus with dates.
It shares some ingredients with hummus, but the method and concept are distinct. This preserve is meant to represent the historical transition from nomadic hunting-gathering to settled agriculture in Mesopotamia. The key instruction in the method is to only partially mash the cooked chickpeas.
Why only partial mashing?
To maintain a distinct rustic texture, you want some whole or partially mashed chickpeas visible, providing substance and a satisfying chewiness. It's not meant to be perfectly smooth like hummus. This texture provides bulk and satiety, reflecting the sustenance from early agriculture.
And the other ingredient.
The dates provide the necessary sweetness. Tahini adds richness. Roasted garlic gives depth. And crucially, pomegranate molasses adds that essential tartness and complexity that is so characteristic of ancient and modern Fertile Crescent cuisine. Cumin adds warmth. It's a balance of flavors developed over millennia.
What's the nutritional profile?
It embodies the nutrition of a settled agricultural diet. The notes emphasize it's high in plant-based protein, 6G per serving, high in folate, 21% DV, crucial for growth and development, and high in fiber, also 21% DV.
Yeah.
It's suggested as a spread on pita bread for a mezz platter, or served simply as a dip, 155 calories.
Protein, folate, fiber, the staples of agriculture. Finally, for this North African Levantine group, number 22, date-aged balsamic vinegar from the Gila Oasis, a Libyan crossroads. Uses medjool dates, red wine, aged balsamic starter, dried figs, bay leaves. How do you make vinegar from dates and wine?
This is a fascinating example of cross-cultural fermentation, reflecting Libya's position as a crossroads between the Mediterranean and Africa. It's a two-stage fermentation process. First, you crush the medjool dates to release their sugars. These sugars, often supplemented by the sugars in the red wine, representing Mediterranean trade influence, undergo an alcoholic fermentation, creating a low-alcohol date wine.
Okay, stage 1 is alcohol. How does it become vinegar?
Stage 2 requires introducing acetobacter, a specific type of bacteria that consumes alcohol and converts it into acetic acid, the acid in vinegar. This is done by adding an aged balsamic starter culture, which contains live acetobacter, or mother of vinegar. Dried figs add more sugar and complexity, bay leaves add aroma.
And it needs aging.
Yes, the crucial part is the aging. The mixture needs to age for 20 to 24 weeks in darkness, typically in a vessel covered with cloth to allow air exchange. Acetobacter needs oxygen, but keep insects out. The notes say, this long, dark aging is a metaphor for the covered, bustling souks of the trade route.
A slow transformation. What's the result?
The result is a complex, slightly sweet, date-infused balsamic-style vinegar. It's noted as being low-calorie, 65 kilo for serving, containing about 5% acetic acid, and likely having some probiotic benefits from the fermentation process. It's recommended for use in vinaigrettes or as a finishing drizzle over couscous dishes, showcasing that cross-cultural flavor profile. Hashtag 5.2, the Persian and Arabian Gulf axis. All right, let's move east now along the Persian and Arabian Gulf axis. We kick off with preserve number 2, date pomegranate molasses chutney. The context is a Persian paradise reflecting Zoroastrian gardens. Ingredients: Diglet nor dates, pomegranate molasses, caramelized shallots, toasted walnuts, saffron, and sumac.
This sounds incredibly luxurious. The method mentions slow caramelizing shallots.
Right.
Why is that important in Persian cooking?
That precise, patient, slow caramelization of shallots until they are deeply golden and sweet is a hallmark technique in classic Persian cuisine. It builds an incredibly deep, savory foundation for the dish. It's not just about browning. It's about developing complex sugars and flavors. It signifies refinement and care.
Okay, a deep base, then the other elements.
The pomegranate molasses provides that characteristic concentrated, vibrant tartness that Persians love, which beautifully balances the sweetness of the Deglet Noor dates. Toasted walnut pieces add texture and richness, representing the importance of tree nuts in Persian gardens. And then you have threads of precious saffron for its unmistakable aroma, color, and luxurious association, plus a sprinkle of sumac for an extra citrusy lift.
What about the nutritional aspect here? Walnuts usually mean healthy fats.
Exactly. The notes highlight this chutney is high in fiber, 18% DV, and thanks to those walnuts, an excellent source of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, 2.1 gene per serving. It also contains punicolagens, powerful antioxidants derived from the pomegranate molasses. Suggested use is spreading on Persian flatbreads like sangak or serving alongside roasted lamb, 185 calories.
Omega-3s, nice. Next is number 10, date pistachio compound butter from the Kerman Oasis, famous for Persian nut groves. Uses Mazzafati dates, European butter, ground pistachios, pistachio oil, and saffron. This involves freeze-drying the dates. That sounds modern.
It is. This recipe cleverly blends modern technique with ancient flavors. The key mechanism is freeze-drying the soft Mazzafati dates and then powdering them.
Why freeze-dry them first?
To concentrate the intense date flavor without introducing the date's natural moisture, if you just blegged fresh dates into butter, the water content would destabilize the butter emulsion, making it weep or spoil quickly. The freeze-dried powder delivers pure flavor impact while keeping the butter stable.
Smart technique. And the pistachios.
Finely ground pistachios are incorporated, along with a touch of pistachio oil. This not only adds the rich, nutty flavor characteristic of Kerman pistachios, but also contributes that beautiful, vibrant green color. The saffron adds another layer of aroma and luxury.
So it's intensely flavored butter. Nutrition.
It's butter, so it's rich. Notes indicate high saturated fat, 60% DV from the European butter, but also a good amount of monounsaturated fat, 7G, largely from the pistachio oil. It also provides some vitamin K. It's designed as a finishing butter spread thinly on warm flatbread or used to enrich Persian rice dishes like shirin polo just before serving, 225 calories.
Okay, moving along the Silk Road now. Preserve number 5 is date apricot kernel conserve. Context is the Dunhuang Trading Hub, a major oasis crossroads. Ingredients: Zahidi dates, a drier type, dried apricots, blanched apricot kernels, rock sugar, shaxing wine, and 5-spice powder. How does this show Silk Road fusion?
This recipe is a perfect culinary reflection of Dunhuang's position as a melting pot at the intersection of Chinese, Central Asian, and Middle Eastern cultures. It combines Middle Eastern staples like Zahidi dates and dried apricots
Right.
with ingredients and techniques from further east. The blanched and lightly toasted apricot kernels are interesting. They provide a nutty flavor reminiscent of almonds, a common ingredient in Central Asian and Persian sweets. Blanching removes any bitterness.
And the Chinese elements.
Those come from the inclusion of shaxing wine, a classic Chinese cooking wine that adds depth and aroma, and the unmistakable profile of Chinese 5-spice powder, typically star anise, cloves, cinnamon, Sichuan pepper, fennel. The rock sugar is also more common in Chinese preserving. It's a true cultural fusion in a jar.
What are the key nutritional points?
Notes mention it's high in potassium, 14% DV from both dates and apricots, and a good source of vitamin E, 20% DV, likely from the apricot kernels. It also mentions trace amygdalin, a compound found in apricot kernels that's controversial in large doses, but present in trace amounts here. Suggested use is serving with Chinese tea or pairing with aged cheeses. 195 calories.
Interesting fusion. Number 12 takes us to Syria. Date sumac gastrique, linked to the Palmyra trade route. Ingredients: concentrated date syrup, pomegranate juice, sumac powder, red wine vinegar. What exactly is a gastrique?
A gastrique is essentially a classic French sauce base made by caramelizing sugar and deglazing with vinegar, creating a balanced sweet and sour liquid. This recipe adapts that concept using Middle Eastern ingredients.
How is the wealth metaphor used here?
The method involves significantly reducing concentrated date syrup along with pomegranate juice. This intense reduction process is described as a metaphor for the concentrated wealth that flowed through Palmyra, a major trading city. You're boiling down common ingredients into something precious and intense.
And the key flavor.
The key flavor, besides the deep sweetness of the date syrup, comes from the sumac powder. Sumac provides a distinctive, bright, lemony, tart flavor that is absolutely essential for cutting through the richness and sweetness. Achieving the perfect balance between the sweet date syrup, the tart sumac, and the acidic red wine vinegar requires precision, reflecting the sophistication of a major trade center.
Nutrition focus.
Notes emphasize it's very high in antioxidants thanks to both the concentrated date syrup and the pomegranate juice, rich in anthocyanins, and the sumac itself. Recommended use is drizzling over grilled lamb, roasted vegetables, or even game birds. 115 calories.
Staying in Syria, number 19 is date pomegranate reduction, but this one is specifically linked to the Damascus oasis and its Ghouta gardens. How is it different from the Palmyra gastrique?
It's similar in concept. a sweet-sour reduction, but reflects the specific luxurious context of Damascus, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities. It uses concentrated Damascus date syrup and fresh pomegranate juice again, but also includes date molasses for extra depth, Damascene rosewater for that signature floral luxury, and a pinch of malab.
Malab, what's that?
Malab is a spice made from the ground pits of the St. Lucie cherry. It has a unique flavor, slightly floral, slightly bitter, reminiscent of almonds and cherries. It adds a layer of aromatic complexity considered very sophisticated in Damascene cuisine.
So it's about refinement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reduction process itself creates this sophisticated, syrupy consistency. The addition of expensive rosewater, Damascus is famous for its roses, signifies luxury. Achieving the perfect sweet-sour balance here is seen as the standard for an urban oasis culture known for its refined palate. Nutritionally, it's still a high potassium source, 12% DV, and packed with punicolagens and very high antioxidants. Used as similar drizzling over grilled kibbeh, mahamra dip, or desserts, 105 calories.
Okay, let's head down to Oman. Preserve number 16 is date candied orange marmalade from the Nizwa Oasis, known for its forts. Uses kalas dates, bitter oranges, peel in segments, Omani lime powder, and cardamom. Marmalade usually involves a lot of peel prep, right?
Absolutely. And the method here emphasizes that meticulousness. Making good marmalade requires properly preparing the bitter orange peel to remove excess bitterness while retaining the essential oils. The instruction is to julienne the peel finely and then blanch it repeatedly in fresh changes of boiling water.
Why repeated blanching?
Each blanching step helps to leach out some of the harsh bitterness from the white pith, making the final marmalade palatable. It's a labor-intensive process that requires precision. The sweetness needed to balance the remaining bitterness comes from the kalas dates, a popular variety in Oman.
And the Omani lime powder. We saw dried limes before.
Yes, Omani dried lime powder, lumi, serves a similar function, adding a unique earthy tartness and historically providing that crucial vitamin C to prevent scurvy, especially important in a region with strong maritime and desert trading connections centered around forts like Nizwa. Cardamom adds warmth.
Nutrition highlight here must be vitamin C.
Definitely. Because it uses the whole orange peel in segments, the notes indicate this marmalade is a high source of vitamin C, 36% DV. It also contains limon, the aromatic compound from the orange oil. Recommended use is spreading on traditional Omani breads or using it as a filling for date cookies, mamoul, 155 calories.
Makes sense. Now to Saudi Arabia. Number 21 is date rose honey syrup, linked to the Al Asa Oasis, the Arabian Gulf Pearl, one of the world's largest oases. Ingredients: kalas date syrup, raw honey, triple distilled rosewater, cardamom, saffron, triple distilled rosewater.
Yes, that detail signifies extreme luxury and refinement. Triple distilled rosewater is incredibly potent and aromatic, requiring vast quantities of rose petals, hundreds, maybe thousands, to produce. Its inclusion reflects the immense natural abundance of the Al Asa Oasis, which is sustained by massive ancient aquifers.
So the recipe reflects the oasis's wealth.
Exactly. The method involves reducing the kalas date syrup with raw honey to a highly concentrated level. The notes call it an ancient aquifer metaphor, symbolizing the deep, rich source of the oasis's lifeblood. Maximum sweetness and richness are justified by this context of natural abundance. Saffron and cardamom add further layers of traditional Gulf flavor and luxury.
Nutrition.
Focuses on the quality ingredients, high levels of natural enzymes presumed from the raw honey, and high antioxidants from the dates, honey, and spices. Suggested use is drizzling over rich Arabic coffee cakes, like basbousa, or serving alongside strong Arabic coffee, 145 calories.
And the final preserve in this group, number 23, also from Saudi Arabia. Date cardamom vanilla syrup. Context is the Diriyah Oasis, the foundation site of the first Saudi state. Ingredients: date syrup, raw sugar, 3 vanilla beans, heavy cream, ghee, saffron. This sounds incredibly rich.
This is presented as the Royal Oasis method, deliberately blending deep tradition with symbols of modern wealth and global trade. The date syrup is reduced again, achieving what the notes call a royal concentration, signifying power and ambition, a metaphor for the kingdom's foundation.
And the modern elements.
The inclusion of 3 whole vanilla beans, split and scraped, represents access to global trade routes bringing exotic goods from afar. Vanilla wasn't native to the region. The addition of heavy cream and ghee, clarified butter, signifies accumulated wealth and luxurious richness.
But the date is still central.
Absolutely. Even with these opulent additions, the date syrup remains symbolically central, grounding the recipe in its Arabian heritage. Cardamom and saffron provide the traditional aromatic signature. Nutritionally, it highlights vanillin from vanilla and essential oils from the spices. It's designed as a very rich dessert syrup drizzled over Arabic sweets like luqwimat or served with coffee. 165 calories. Hashtag tag 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 5.3, the Central and Eastern Axis.
Okay, on to our final geographical grouping, the Central and Eastern Axis, covering a diverse range of oases. Let's start with number 3, date tamarind compote, with the evocative context of an Arabian Nights Bedouin campfire. Uses soft barhi dates, tamarind paste, desert honey, cardamom, and cloves. What role does the tamarind play here?
The tamarind paste is absolutely crucial for balance. Barhi dates are known for being exceptionally sweet, almost candy-like, when fresh and soft. Tamarind provides a distinct, sour, tangy counterpoint that cuts through that intense sweetness, creating a much more complex and palatable flavor profile, especially suitable for nomadic tastes that value contrast.
And the cooking method.
The method specifies cooking the dates gently, just enough to soften them further and allow them to meld with the tamarind and honey while still maintaining their identity. You don't want them to dissolve completely. The addition of cardamom and cloves evokes the aromatic complexity often associated with Bedouin hospitality and particularly Arabian coffee, which is frequently spiced with cardamom.
Nutrition notes for this one.
It's highlighted as being high in potassium, 12% DV from the dates, and containing tartaric acid from the tamarind, which provides the sourness. It also offers moderate levels of B vitamins. Suggested use is serving it dolloped over thick labneh, strained yogurt, or using it as a filling for date cookies, 145 calories.
Sounds lovely. Next, number 7 takes us to Egypt's Siwa Oasis, famous for the Oracle of Alexander the Great. It's date honey dolce. Ingredients: date paste, Siwa honey, heavy cream, Greek brandy, vanilla bean. What's special about Siwa honey?
Siwa Oasis is geographically isolated, and the bees there forage on unique desert blooms. This results in Siwa honey having a distinct, often intense floral character, quite different from other honeys. The recipe aims to capture this legendary sweetness of Siwa.
And the method, it mentions the oracle.
Yes, the method involves reducing the date paste with the Siwa honey and heavy cream to create a thick, caramel-like sauce, a dulce. The notes say cooking it to the perfect consistency requires care and attention. Comparing it metaphorically to the oracle's cryptic prophecies, the final texture should be just right, thick but flowing, sweet, and perhaps a little mysterious. The Greek brandy hints at Alexander's connection and adds depth, while vanilla adds aroma.
Nutrition focus.
Notes mention high polyphenols, antioxidants from both dates and potentially the unique honey, and natural enzymes, again, likely from the honey if minimally processed. Suggested use is drizzling over Greek yogurt or using it as a rich sauce for desserts like baklava, 215 calories.
Moving south to the edge of the Sahara, number 8 is date vinegar ferment. Context is Sahel survival, the sub-Saharan borderlands. Uses deglet noor dates, baobab powder, tamarind concentrate, and hibiscus flowers. This sounds very different. A survival drink.
Precisely. This is less a preserve to be eaten and more a functional fermented beverage base designed for survival in the incredibly harsh Sahel environment. It uses dates primarily for their sugar content, which is fermented into vinegar through natural processes, similar to the argilla vinegar but likely simpler.
What did the other ingredients add?
The baobab powder is key. Baobab fruit is renowned in Africa for being exceptionally rich in vitamin C and essential minerals. Its inclusion makes this ferment a vital source of nutrients often lacking in the diet. Tamarind adds more acidity, and dried hibiscus flowers provide vitamin C, antioxidants, and a characteristic deep red color common in West African drinks.
And the fermentation process.
It's likely a relatively short fermentation, maybe 4-6 weeks, to develop sufficient acidity. The notes highlight 2 critical functions. The acidity helps make questionable water sources safer to drink by inhibiting some pathogens, and the final product is incredibly high in electrolytes.
High electrolytes again?
Extremely high sodium is noted here, 1,200 milligrams per serving, a whopping 52% DV. This, combined with very high probiotics from the fermentation and high vitamin C, 31% DV from baobab hibiscus, makes it a powerful rehydration and nutrient replenishment drink when mixed with water. Pure, functional survival food. Also suggested for use in salads, 95 calories.
Incredible adaptation. Back to Morocco, number 13 is date agar gel. Context is an oasis fed by Atlas Mountain Springs. Uses date syrup, agar powder, orange blossom rosewater, and lemon juice. Using agar sounds like modern gastronomy.
It does employ a technique often associated with modern cooking, but the concept is rooted in clarity and purity, reflecting the mountain spring context. The method starts by diluting the date syrup significantly to achieve a spring-clear liquid, mimicking pure mountain snowmelt.
Diluting it usually preserves concentrate things.
Right, but the goal here isn't concentration, it's clarity and a delicate texture. Agar powder, a suey-derived gelling agent, is then dissolved precisely into the diluted flavored syrup, using orange blossom or rose water and lemon juice for balance.
What does the agar do differently than, say, pectin?
Agar sets much more firmly and clearly than pectin, especially at room temperature. It creates a translucent, shimmering gel. The notes describe it as setting firmly while maintaining transparency, comparing it to amber preserving sweet memories. It's about capturing the essence of the date flavor in a pristine, elegant form.
Nutrition.
Notes mention the unique agar texture itself as a feature, along with high natural sugars. It's suggested as a light, elegant dessert or palate cleanser, 95 calories.
Very different. Now to the ancient city of Jericho. Preserve number 15 is date fig jelly from the Jericho oasis near the ancient walls. Uses date juice, fig juice, liquid pectin, and raw honey. Making jelly requires clear juice, right?
Yes, clarity is key for a true jelly, as opposed to a jam or preserve. The method here emphasizes patient pressing and straining of both dates and figs to extract clear juice free from pulp. This requires time and care, reflecting the patience of settled agriculture associated with Jericho, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities.
And adding pectin.
Because the clear juice likes the pulp that helps jams set, liquid pectin is added, and the method stresses precise timing when adding it to the boiling juice and honey mixture to ensure a proper gel forms upon cooling. The goal is a translucent jelly. Allowing light to pass through the notes suggests this symbolizes looking back through millennia of settlement in ancient Jericho.
Nutrition points.
Highlights the natural pectin content, though supplemented, and notes it provides some calcium, 5% DV, likely from the figs. Suggested use is classic jelly territory. Serve with fresh bread or use as a glaze for roasted meats. 105 calories.
Moving back to Egypt, number 18 is date-dried fig preserves from the Baharia oasis in the western desert. Ingredients: seaweed, dates, local Egyptian variety, dried figs, Egyptian desert honey, rose water. How is this different from the Jericho jelly?
This is a preserve, not a jelly, meaning it features whole or large pieces of fruit in a thick syrup. The key mechanism here involves rehydrating quartered dried figs before cooking them with the fresh seaweed dates and Egyptian desert honey, likely from specific desert blooms. This rehydration step is presented as an abundance metaphor, transforming dried, stored fruit back into something plump and luscious.
And the goal with the two fruits?
The goal is for the dates and figs to meld their flavors in the honey and rosewater syrup, but still maintain their distinct character and texture. You should be able to taste both the date and the fig. The notes compare this to the historical identity of Upper and Lower Egypt, distinct yet united.
Nutrition focus here.
This one is highlighted as being very high in fiber, 21% DV, thanks to both dates and figs, and providing useful amounts of calcium, 7% DV, and magnesium, 9% DV, important minerals for bone health. Suggested uses are pairing it with traditional Egyptian cheeses like mish or spreading it on date bread, 165 calories.
Okay, our final preserve. Number 20 is date hibiscus shrub, context of the Timbuktu oasis in the Mali Empire. Uses diglet nor dates, strong hibiscus tea, apple cider vinegar with mother, and tamarind paste. What's a shrub?
A shrub in this context is an old-fashioned drink base made from fruit, sugar, and vinegar. The vinegar preserves the fruit and creates a tangy syrup that's diluted with water or spirits to make a refreshing drink. This version reflects the cultural fusion of Timbuktu, a major center of trade and Islamic scholarship connecting North Africa and West Africa.
How does it show that fusion?
It uses North African diglet nor dates, but the dominant flavor and color come from strong, cooled hibiscus tea. Hibiscus, known as bissap or carcade in parts of Africa, gives it that characteristic deep red West African color and tart flavor. Apple cider vinegar with mother provides the acidity and probiotics. Tamarind adds another layer of sourness.
And the fermentation.
This is likely a relatively short fermentation, maybe just 48 to 72 hours, allowing the flavors to meld and develop complexity. The notes compare this development process metaphorically to the growth of scholarship and trade in the Mali Empire. It's an African-Arab flavor fusion.
Nutrition and use.
Notes highlight high anthocyanins, the red pigments antioxidants from hibiscus, and the presence of probiotics from the vinegar mother. The primary use is mixing it with water, still or sparkling, for a tart, refreshing drink, or using it as a boost for cocktails. 85 calories.
Wow. That was an incredible tour through 23 different ways cultures have transformed the date. Let's try to synthesize some key takeaways, especially nutritionally.
Absolutely. If we boil it down, the source material consistently emphasizes four core nutritional highlights of the date fruit itself, especially relevant to its original environment.
Which are?
First, its concentrated desert energy, those natural sugars providing readily available fuel. Second, it's a potassium powerhouse, absolutely crucial for electrolyte balance in extreme heat. Third, it's fiber-rich, promoting satiety and ensuring a slower, more sustained energy release than pure sugar would give. And fourth, it offers antioxidant protection containing various polyphenols that likely help protect against cellular damage from harsh sun exposure.
Energy, potassium, fiber, antioxidants,
Yep.
the core package.
Exactly. But as we saw in the preserves, when dates are combined with other nutrient-dense oasis staples, those nutritional advantages can be significantly amplified or complemented.
Yeah, give us some examples of that synergy.
Okay, take the date sesame tahini curd. Preserve #6. The date provides energy, but the tahini elevates it dramatically by adding significant amounts of calcium, 13% DV, and copper, 33% DV, minerals vital for bone health and metabolism derived entirely from the sesame seeds.
Right, or the date pomegranate molasses chutney. Preserve #2.
That one becomes an excellent source of plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, 2.1 G, thanks directly to the addition of walnuts, an essential fatty acid often lacking in purely desert-based diets.
And the date candied orange marmalade. Preserve #16.
That one delivered the highest vitamin C content of the whole collection, 36% DV, purely because of the inclusion of the bitter orange peel in segments. That vitamin C was historically critical for preventing scurvy on long trade journeys.
And we have to mention that date vinegar ferment for Sahel survival. Preserve #8 again.
Yes, because it's the prime example of functional formulation. That incredibly high sodium content, 52% DV, isn't a flaw. It's a deliberate feature designed for aggressive electrolyte replacement in a life-or-death survival scenario. And it's perfectly coupled with high vitamin C, 31% DV, from the baobab to address multiple nutritional deficiencies simultaneously.
It really shows how these weren't just about taste, but about survival and health.
Absolutely. And underlying all of this is the date's inherent preservation power. That naturally high sugar content and relatively low moisture content is what makes all these preserves possible and exceptionally shelf-stable, especially when combined with other preservative elements like salt, acid, or fat. It justifies the source's general recommendation of an 18 to 24-month shelf life under refrigeration for most of these recipes. That ability to preserve abundance was the ultimate desert necessity.
Transforming scarcity into long-term security.
We've spent this entire very deep dive focusing intensely on the miracle that is Phoenix dactylifera, but it's worth briefly stepping back, as the source material does, to see the bigger picture.
How so?
The principles we've explored here using sugar concentration, dehydration, acidity, fermentation, fat preservation, balancing flavors utilizing spices, these aren't exclusive to dates. They are universal principles of food preservation and culinary creation.
Right, the techniques are transferable.
Exactly. The source material briefly mentions another resource, the Complete Guide to Homemade Fruit Spread, just to illustrate this point. That guide apparently covers an incredibly diverse global palette of fruits, things most of us have never even heard of, like ackee, atemoya, durian, jabuticaba, kiwano, salak, yuzu.
Oh, wow, quite the list.
The point being that the fundamental techniques for transforming fruit into shelf-stable, delicious spreads techniques, arguably perfected over millennia in harsh desert environments using the date palm, can be applied universally. The mastery developed in the oasis translates directly to global culinary innovation, no matter the fruit.
So there you have it. After, well, quite some time, you now have what we hope is far more than just a summary, a genuine 90-minute education, a deep dive into one of the world's most important and enduring crops, and also into the incredibly sophisticated, resilient, and delicious cuisines that generations of oasis cultures built around it.
It's truly remarkable. The date palm quite literally sustained civilizations for millennia. It did so by enabling humans to transform landscapes of scarcity into places of profound, lasting abundance. This collection of 23 preserves we walked through, it's more than just recipes. It's a complex, edible map tracing human ingenuity, adaptation, and resilience in the face of seemingly impossible environments.
A map of ingenuity. I like that. And before we wrap up this deep dive, let's just circle back for a moment to maybe the most profound single fact we encountered today.
I think I know where you're going.
The incredible, almost unbelievable longevity of those Judean date palm seeds, successfully germinating, growing, thriving after being dormant for 2,000 years.
It still boggles the mind, Methuselah and the others.
It does. And it leaves us, and hopefully you, with a really important question to ponder is our final provocative thought for today.
If those seeds could survive so long, what other critical agricultural knowledge, what other ancient seeds containing millennia of accumulated adaptation, resilience, and sustenance perfectly tailored to past climates or forgotten landscapes might still be out there? Waiting, dormant, perhaps in forgotten archives, archaeological digs, or even just overlooked in the soil beneath our feet, waiting for us to rediscover them, revive them, and perhaps utilize their ancient wisdom to face our own future challenges. What else is waiting to be reawakened?